haven't really talked about that on the show before but people think that that you write your book and you turn it into your publisher and you do your edits. They I guess they know that we do edits and go back and forth, but people then they don't realize that first how much control you give up. A lot of people don't realize that, because they'll say, how did you come up with the title of that book? It's like, actually I didn't come up with the title of that book. They changed it. Or who's the model on your covers? Says, I have no idea. When the covers come is when I find out what they look like. But the biggest misconception, other than money, people think we get paid a lot more than we do. is they think that the publisher, arranges a book tour for us and gets us on this TV show and that TV show and the radio, and they think that our publisher does all this publicity for us. No. And no, they don't. And the amount of time that you can spend on publicity, because between the internet, I'm a Twitterer. Follow me on Twitter, at Toni Andrews on Twitter, by the way. I'm a big Twitter person. Because that's not terribly time consuming. It can be. It can be, but it's not. It's not like Facebook or MySpace, where they're kind of application rich and there's a lot of different things you can be doing. It's a very simple thing. But it seems to me, when I started learning about publicity, when my very first book was coming out, that I was hit with a barrage of, you have to be you have to be blogging, and you have to have a website, and you have to do podcasts, and you have to have your book title tattooed on the sides of puppies and give them away. I mean, people, there's just such infinite ways to publicize yourself, but you have to kind of pick something. You have to say, you know what, you could literally spend so much time on publicity that you never wrote another word.
Oh, I think without a doubt I spend more time on publicity than I do writing a book, which people can't believe. But writing is, you sit in your room and you put words on a page and you're in control of your time and your story, but publicity is just like this giant sucking black hole, and whole weeks go by that you don't even know what you did, but you were doing. I mean, I'm fortunate in that I love publicity, and I like being in public, and I like speaking, and I like all.
As do I, which is like why this. I mean, this is not a publicity venue for me. It's a publicity venue for other people. But that's something that I am comfortable with, is being in public. But a lot of people become writers because it's a solitary profession.
Exactly. They don't like it.
They don't like it, so it's very difficult for them to put themselves out there.
Right. I mean, it's a very strange juxtaposition that you sit alone in a room to do the work, and then you go really out in public when it comes out. And
to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then the book signings. And if you're going to do bookstores, I understand now why publicists charge like lawyers, because making the phone calls, oh my goodness, making the phone calls and getting people to call you back and leaving the messages and those kinds of things, it's like, does anyone answer their voicemail anymore?
Well, I've been very lucky in 2 instances actually where I have gone into a promotional partnership with a major corporation. And I have done that on my own, and both of them began with a cold call. Yeah. Where I just picked up the phone and called, and with an idea that then actually came to fruition. And when I think about it, it's completely improbable, but it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't picked up the phone.
No, you have to, yes, you have to pick up the phone. Nobody comes and knocks on your door and says, does a nice author live here, because I would like to promote
I can't even get the newspaper in my hometown to do anything about me.
I had one article with the first book in the series. To be honest, I haven't really been after them, because the amount of time you can spend chasing press releases. I need to do this because I've got a June 1st release myself, and I need to get back on that. But I can tell you, if you tour on a future book in New England, I'm going to make a plug for a couple of places that do a really excellent job with book signings, and a lot of people come.
Oh, good.
And one is, there's a big Barnes & Noble near the Holyoke Mall in Holyoke, Massachusetts.
Really?
And the people there that are in their public consumer relations department are just wonderful, and there's crowds of people, and they come in and want to hear you speak. It's fantastic. And then there's a big Borders in Southbury, Connecticut, which is, you'll be going right by it on back to the town you're staying in with your friends in Darien.
Great.
And those are 2 really nice locations. And And then there's art. Now, since you're a bit more literary than I am, you might have some luck with the fabulous independent bookstores. I wish there were more.
Well, I'm very lucky.
There's a lovely one in Madison, Connecticut called R.J. Julia.
Oh, sure.
And that's a great place. But anyway, I can see we're coming to the end of our time. Can you believe it already?
I know.
And I'm going to ask you to read an excerpt from The Only True Genius in the Family for our audience.
I would love to.
Looking forward to that.
I'm going to read the very opening.
Okay.
Because I like it.
Good.
Chapter 1. My dad died at an incredibly inconvenient time, and I have no doubt that he planned it that way on purpose. It was February 2006. His home on the Idaho side of the Tetons was buried under 6 feet of snow from a blizzard that had roared down from Canada and locked the whole region in its icy grip. There were no flights in or out of Driggs for a week. And once I finally arrived, I was prevented from carrying out his final wishes because the particular bend in the Teton River where I was to stand and scatter his ashes in reverence and mourning was frozen so solid that the idea of a trout jumping in spring seemed to be the stuff of myth. His timing also seemed designed as a turbo boost for the only other person who he believed had been touched by God in the same way he had been. Though good pagan that he was, he would never have referenced anything divine. That person was my daughter, Bailey, 23 years old, who in the spring of 2006 was finishing the painting she would need to complete her MFA degree from the esteemed Art Center in Pasadena, a milestone that everyone who knew her had been expecting since the day she first picked up a crayon. Just at the moment when Bailey was planning her first solo art exhibition, there were laudatory obituaries about my dad's career, and exultant TV segments about his lasting contribution to American art, and the whole newsworthy question of how we would preserve and protect his legacy, all of which acted like an amplifier for what Bailey was doing with her own art. And as if all that weren't enough, his death came smack in the middle of an important photo shoot for which I had thousands of dollars of artisan chocolate in my studio and millions of dollars of jewels on loan from Harry Winston in Beverly Hills. Chocolate waits for no one, not even death. It sweats, discolors, loses its sheen. While I trekked to Driggs to sign the death certificate and shelve my dad's remains until the ice had melted, Peter, my camera tech and right-hand man, called the client to say we were rescheduling the shoot for the following week, sent home the burly security guards with their sparkling loot, and emailed chocolatiers from Ecuador to Madagascar to request a second round of lavender truffles, port marinated figs dipped in dark chocolate, and triple milled cocoa blended with Aztec chili. I would have killed my dad if he hadn't already done it himself.
Ooh. That's quite an opening. Now, I live on a lake, and the ice just went off the lake this last week.
Oh,
yeah, we live on a lake.
We've come from Los Angeles, and everyone's talking about sledding and building snowmans, and we don't quite believe it.
Yeah, well, you're a little bit past the snow season, but then we're talking about the chocolate, and now, so it's. I was hungry there. I also. Are you a foodie in your books?
No, but it's so. I mean, I'm not in real life, but this book is full of food. And people ask me, they keep asking me, are you a photographer? Are you a painter? Are you a cook?
Right.
And I'm none of these things. So it's very interesting.
I can always tell the people who enjoy food, though, because all the important scenes in their books seem to take place over eating at some point.
Right.
And there's a wonderful, we're filming in Bolton, Connecticut. There's a wonderful place right near here, Munson's Chocolate, right up the road.
Really?
Yes, and when you called to get directions for the studio, she had to call. You were like across the street from the Munson's Chocolate Factory. Yes, it's wonderful.
I'll have to go back.
It's a wonderful place. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you.
We're out of time.
Thank you.
But if anybody would like to find out more about you or your books, they can go to your website, which is?
It's JennieNash.com.
JennieNash.com. Okay, and if you or somebody that you know would like to be a guest on So Many Books, you can go to my website, www.toniandrews.com, and click the Contact Me link and send me an email and tell me a little bit about yourself and your book, and I'll be in touch. And thanks very much for joining us. Thanks again.